She gamble rides again. Oh wait, sorry, wrong channel. Welcome to the Gamble Ramble vlog, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you being here. Just a little poke joke at Justin Hawkins Rides Again, the great YouTube channel, which is tied in with today's theme, as you can tell by the title. And it might be a convoluted way, but I will eventually get to it. So what we're here to talk about today is whether or not the great rock and roll artist Yungblud, who I've been, covering a lot lately, uses Autotune. Okay. Now, a great YouTube channel called Wings of Pegasus, I'll put the link in the description, did a very detailed deep dive into Yungblud's performance with Steven Tyler and Joe Perry at the MVAs, or VMAs rather. And this is a guy that is, I don't know much about him. I think he might be a singer, musician, or engineer of some kind that knows how Autotune is used. And he was able to show waveforms and stuff on the screen, much more advanced than I'd be ever able to do. Showing and proving, seems pretty without a doubt, that Yungblud was using Autotune and his duet with Steven Tyler, which gives credence to the rumors that he uses it live. Now, I have to say, first of all, this channel, Wings of Pegasus, is very professional, very well done. He seems like a very knowledgeable guy. He's got over 500,000 subs. He's doing something right. And he definitely seems like a smart and bright person. And he doesn't seem to be overtly attacking Yungblud. He just seems to be pointing out the fact that Steven Tyler, who is nearly 80, is not using it, and Yungblud is. So, I'm here to offer a balance, what I think is a balanced perspective. And of course, we have, on the other side, like putting that on the side of criticism of Yungblud, we also have Justin Hawkins, hence my little joke, and his brother Dan, who have criticized Yungblud as being a poser and so on and so forth. And we've already covered all this. So here I am, Mr. Switzerland, right? I like to think I'm somewhere in the middle. In fact, I know I am, because I am a fan of Yungblud. What you may also find funny is that I am like Justin Hawkins in the sense of I'm a traditionalist. Like, I like hard rock music and rock and roll. My favorite band of all time is the Rolling Stones. I like gritty music, mistakes, live performance, and realism, in music. And I'm really not a fan of stuff like Autotune and backing tracks and miming vocals and things. But here's the thing. I think there are exceptions, okay? And I also think that it's the modern way. So let's start with let's go do a little background on Autotune. For those of you that don't know, and I don't claim to be an expert, it is a function, an app, or a program you can use to take a singer's vocal track in the studio and pitch correct it if they're singing off key. And then now there's a live version apparently available that automatically corrects their vocals. So it gets between the singer's mic, the signal goes to whatever this computer machinery is, and then goes out front through the PA, and it corrects the pitch for someone that might be have a problem with pitch and singing off key, okay? So this has existed for a long time in a lot of different primary and crude forms. As a matter of fact, the band I was in, Buffalo Brothers, right there, when we recorded our album back in 1994, maybe even 93, we started it, I can't recall. We did a production deal where a studio in town gave us speculative studio time, and then we got a record deal and paid it off. But they had an early version of what was called Pro Tools, and what is still called Pro Tools, that every Tom, Dick, and Harry and every major studio uses now. But at the time, it was new. So hear me out, because this ties in with Yungblud. Our primary source of recording back then was on 2-inch tape, those big reels you see, reel-to-reel machines in the studio. But on top of it, our producer and engineer Dan Broadback had introduced this new thing called Pro Tools. And I remember him showing it to us, and it was fascinating because we primarily, if I remember correctly, we used it on vocals and maybe guitar. So basically, we did the rhythm tracks, the bed tracks, rhythm section live to 2-inch tape for a warmer, better analog sound. And then what we did was, I remember him showing me, taking the mouse and clicking it and showing me on the computer screen, taking our singer Sean Sanders' vocal. And let's say that Sean's got a great ear and a very pitch correct singer, but even the best singers hit a bum note now and then. So this stuff was designed to save an otherwise great vocal take, right? So you didn't have to redo, or punch in. So let's say that we did a live off the floor take, where Sean nailed it from start to front, but there was one or two off notes. The original purpose of this Pro Tools application, I don't know that it was called Autotune then, but it was the same kind of thing, was that you could go in with the mouse, click the mouse, grab the note, and bend it into pitch on the screen. There's a graph, right? And it shows you the note is here, and let's say the singer's bar graph is just under here. Then you grab the mouse and click it, put it into tune, saving an otherwise great vocal take. So what a great piece of machinery. I thought, this is amazing. And I can remember thinking, just like thinking with digital, this is going to cause a problem because there's going to be the usual human nature. We overuse everything, or we take things and we use them. We overuse them and we use them wrongly, okay? So the point being, originally this technology was invented to help performers save and get a good vocal take. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But what happened was it became known as a sound. And like anything, like room reverb first came out, echo, plate echo, all these things, you would use them originally on part of a song for an effect. And then someone like Phil Spector took echo and made it his entire sound. He just threw echo on everything, stacked the instruments and threw echo on, and that was the wall of sound, okay? So now, if you listen to hit radio, it's all auto-tune artists, and it's that sound. It's very easy to identify. I'll give you a proximity of it. It's like a... I know, stop, please, but do you see what I'm trying to get at? The notes are this kind of weird robotic sounding, and when they shift, it doesn't sound like a natural shift in a voice, like going, it's like, you know what I mean? You can hear auto-tune if you learn what it sounds like. You can hear it clear as a bell. So now it's become, instead of a repair tool, it's become a sound. Like these, and I hate to say it, but mostly female pop, electronic dance music singers, they use it for that sound. It's almost a nasally kind of sound. One more time. You know what I mean? It's almost like a dance music kind of thing. And it is effective, except that every fucking motherfucker in the world's doing it now. So, let's say, for the sake of argument, that Wings of Pegasus has proven that yes, Autotune is being used by Yungblud, which it pretty much seems he has. He's not using it like that. He's using it to enhance an already great performance, or an already good performance. And I think there's a huge difference between using it to be a good singer or using it to be a better singer. I guess is what I'm trying to say, you know what I mean? I don't think he uses it in that application. Like, him and Steven Tyler singing together is actually a really good place to start with this, because Steven Tyler's nearly 80 years old, and he's old school, and he's a very modern guy, but he's also old school, and he does things the old school way. And you can hear the difference now that it's, I watched that Wings of Pegasus thing. I'll put the link in the description. It's interesting. You should watch it, even if you don't like what he's saying. He knows what he's talking about. You can hear the difference, but it's being used just enough to make it not like, let's say that, Charlie X, whatever her fucking name is, who's a huge user of Autotune. If she was singing with Steven Tyler, you would hear the difference hugely, because it's like, and then wow, like the difference would be night and day.
I want to take a moment to thank someone who's been there for me my entire career, Autotune.
a robot and a human. Whereas it appears that if Yungblud is using it, and it appears he does, at least he's using it in the proper context, okay? So this brings me back to modern times versus older times. And Yungblud's 27 years old. He's using the tools that musicians use today. So yeah, he's entering a traditionalist arena, which is hard rock with guitars and so on and so forth. But he's also a singer in 2025. He's 27 years old. You know, he's got producers, managers, record companies breathing down his neck. You know, here's a parallel that I'll use. It's not a 100% effective parallel, but it is somewhat. In-ear monitors. You know when you see singers and they've got those things clearly in their ears, there's wires sticking out? What they are is speakers, monitors that go in their ears, similar to your earbuds. And then there's a sound man off stage. They're wireless. There's a wireless pack on their back. And he sends a monitor mix to their ears so they can hear themselves and the band. And within that, each individual on stage is able to get their own mix that they like. Singers tend to have mostly vocals, drummers tend to have mostly drums, so that they can play the show. Now, before the invention of in-ear monitors, there used to be stage monitors. And if you watch pictures of, Van Halen, the Stones, the Who, all these arena bands from the 70s, 80s, on the floor in front of them, if you've ever noticed, and they still exist, are boxes that are on an angle that face up to the singer. Those are monitors. And what that is the music that's being fed back to them so they can hear themselves and perform in key. And there's two different audio systems running at a live show, folks. Up front, the speakers that face you, that's the main PA system, okay? That's an entirely different mix. There's a sound man that handles that up front. And on stage, there's a monitor man that controls the sound that faces the band. And trust me when I tell you, they're completely different mixes and sound, okay? For example, I recently sat in with Steel Panther, myself and Brian Ballmer of Helix. I'll put the link in the description. The whole band uses in-ears, so therefore their stage volume is really quiet, and they plug directly in too, so there's no amplifiers blasting. I couldn't get over how quiet it was on stage and how good it sounded. And because I'd never been in a situation like that with everyone using, most gigs I did, a couple of people would be using in-ears and some people would have floor monitors. And it sounded great, but it was so quiet and so not damaging for your ears, which I'm an advocate of, okay? But the point is this. That's technology. In-ears came into play. Like Def Leppard was one of the first major bands to use in-ear technology. Now it's commonplace, okay? But there's still people from that generation that won't touch it. They think it's, it's cheating or it's wrong or it's whatever. So I look at them as kind of two in the same. They're modern tools that modern day singers use to get a better performance. Now, I realize you don't need to tell me. I know you're going to say there's a difference between Autotune and in-ear monitors. Of course I know that. But at the end of the day, the only reason I'm comparing the two is that at the end of the day, getting a good performance is all that matters, okay? And Yungblud is a 27-year-old singer in 2025. He's using the tools at his disposal. Autotune to polish what it's already good, and in-ear monitors to hear himself as best as possible. Things like that. You can't be a Luddite, you can't be stuck in the 1800s. Things change and things move forward. We all know Dom can sing. Even Justin Hawkins knows that Dom can sing. And yeah, okay, he's getting a little help from technology. It's pretty much clear through Wings of Pegasus. Again, link in the description, his video. I urge you to watch it, it's really good. But so fucking what, man? If you believe in classic way of doing things that badly, well, why don't you go haul out a dusty 1978 PA system and put it on a monitor system, put it on stage, and get rid of your in-ears. If you're that much of a traditionalist that you don't think anyone should use this and that, well, why don't you speak, walk the walk. Don't just talk the talk, right? But no, Justin Hawkins uses in-ears because technology is giving him something of an advantage to help him. And yeah, Yungblud doesn't need Autotune. And I stand by that. Is he using it? That's fine. It's none of my business. He's using it to get a better performance, to give you a better performance, okay? This is where the walls need to come down between old school musicians and the new breed. By the way, a point that I forgot to include in the original taping, and I apologize, is rock and roll, as we know it, is dying off. The heroes that we love are literally dying. I bring this up because we should be encouraging young musicians like Dom Yungblud, who is pursuing rock and roll. Even if he wasn't always a traditional rock and roller, I don't care. The fact that he wants to do it now is great, and we should support that, especially people like myself and Justin Hawkins and so on, because our heroes are dying. Ozzy Osbourne, Steven Tyler is going to be 80, Paul McCartney, Roger Daltrey, all these people, Jimmy Page, they're not going to be with us much longer. And rock and roll is fighting. Yes, there's young bands. I don't need you to tell me this. I agree with you. We should be supporting them. And I don't care if they're using this and that, and they're switching over from this and that. At least they're out there and they're playing rock and roll. We should support that 100%, no matter what road they're taking to get there, whether it be Yungblud coming from an emo trying to be classic rock. Someone's got to take over the mantle, And even on a local level, a musician like me, I live in a university college town, and live music is dying. There used to be live music multiple places any night of the week. And I used to work 200 to 300 nights a year. And now, that's dying off. And that's an indication of where young people's tastes are going. DJs, karaoke, dance, whatever it may be. Rock and roll needs all the help it can get, so we should be supporting any and all young artists that is trying to do it, no matter what method they use. We have to accept that the technology and the things that these young people have at their disposal, they're not always cheating. This Charlie XXX bullshit, whatever her name is, like Chaperone, all these singers, I don't doubt that they can sing. Let's tear down a myth here. You don't get a record deal somewhere or get into the industry by not at least having a modicum of talent. Okay? And there's varying degrees of how heavily these people rely on this technology. But, someone like Yungblud, I think, honestly, is just using it to make his performance that much better. Then he's a 27-year-old guy early in his career up against Steven Tyler. If you want to call it a duo, if you're a duel, it's not, but let's say for the sake of a conversation, Steven Tyler's had 7 decades of experience, rather. Like 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010, 2020s. Okay, with 6 decades of experience and over 50 years, right? So, cut the kid some slack. He's only going to get better. And I do want to say this. If I've come across unnecessarily harsh about Justin Hawkins, I actually apologize because I'm a fan. Like, I like some of the Darkness music. And I think Justin is a music fan. I see it in his heart and his presentation. Like, I did unsubscribe from his channel a while back. Nothing to do with Dom. He was doing this about another act, and I thought he was being he just sounded fucking old. He sounded like an old man, and I hate to say it, but he did. And I was just like, you know what? I'm older than him. But I was like, dude, you know what? You're not using this channel to help people when you do stuff like this. Although he does use the channel to help young music. I'll give him that. The Chats, Emil and the Sniffers, Wet Leg, I salute him for helping these bands and other bands I love as well. But I don't know. I think the whole thing, again, coming full circle, it starts, getting back to the start, it started with him defending his brother, which any good brother will do. So I salute him for that. But I think now that he's doubling down instead of maybe saying, okay, well, maybe I was wrong. And I think he was wrong, you know what I mean? It's 2025, and Yungblud is a singer of 2025, as I've probably said 3 or 4 times now. But I don't care, it's true. I'm trying to get that point across. A little Autotune, not a lot. A stylist, a publicist. These are all accoutrements, as the French say, of a modern singer. And pretty much the standards these days. The standards used to be floor monitors and a Roland tape echo on your voice, if anything. And then in the 80s, it was digital delay and plate reverb and so on and so forth. Well, This is just another thing. And I do believe that Yungblud uses it to proper measure and to effect. He doesn't use it to carry his show. So thanks very much for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys supporting the channel as always. And once again, if you're new here, if you could consider subscribing, I would appreciate it. Hit the button below. It's free and it helps me immensely. And my return viewers, thanks very much. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you think about all of this. Again, subscribe if you haven't already, if you're a return viewer. You can leave me a super thanks if you want to leave a little financial gift in the, just check below. Click below, there's a button that says super thanks. You can choose the denomination you want to send. Or you can check out my Patreon, which is $5 a month Canadian, $3 American. And I put stuff on there that I don't share on other social media, YouTube and, Facebook, Instagram. And it really help support the channel, so thanks very much. Rock and roll till next time. While we're on the topic of singers and technology, as a bonus scene, I wanted to throw this in for you. The use of tracks. This is a whole other vlog, but I'm going to take a quick 2 minutes to touch on this. Even on my level that I'm at now as basically a local cover band musician and session player, I've been in tons of bands that use tracks to fortify their live show to make it sound fuller. And it's another thing like Autotune and in-ears and so on. It's technology and time marches on. It's how it is. You don't have to like it, but almost every show you go to, it's being used in some capacity. Now, Kiss, there was the whole fiasco with Kiss, and Paul Stanley was caught singing to tracks, which he was. I'm telling you, he was. I'm a professional musician. There's no way around it. He was lip-syncing tracks. His mic would be open and live at some points in the show, but 99% of it was him singing to tracks. Well, here's another perspective for you. Paul Stanley owes no one nothing. He's been doing this for as long as Steven Tyler has. And Steven Tyler has been lucky enough to maintain his voice, most of it, even after throat surgery. They both had similar problems. But I saw Paul Stanley before they started using the tracks, and he was bad. And I feel disrespectful saying that because I'm a massive Kiss fan. That's Paul and I right there. I toured with Kiss, which I'll put in the description if you want to watch the video about that. I did 9 shows with Kiss in '95. Anywho, I digress. So, I saw Kiss shortly before when Paul's voice was at its lowest, and he was terrible. It was cringeworthy and it was embarrassing. And then I saw them when they were using tracks, and the show was that much better. Now, I'm sorry, but I would rather sit there knowing if you're using tracks, but not every 4 bars going, oh, that was a fucking terrible clunker of a note. Or watching him in pain and embarrassing himself, not being able to hit the notes. I'd rather be able to enjoy the show and listen to a vocal track, a track that is essentially Paul Stanley anyway, and enjoy the show. Kiss is the show, right? I wouldn't want to go see a singer-songwriter using fake vocals. But Kiss, it's a show. Whatever's going to make the show run that much smoother. So, wake up, folks. Old musicians like me, it's 2025. Technology's here. It's here to stay. And how you use it is up to you. But don't close your mind to it, because you're closing your mind to some great opportunities and some great music.